The O2F Football Podcast. The voices of tomorrow, here today.
Hey guys, welcome back to the O2F Football Podcast. I'm Nathan and I'm joined today by Ollie and Kieran.
You alright?
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about who we think is going to finish in the top six and the bottom three of the Premier League. So let's get into it.
So first up, we'll start with our top six, and we'll do it in two batches. In that we'll do fourth, fifth, and sixth. We'll each go around and say our reasonings for putting selective teams in those positions, and then we'll do first, second, and third. So for me, who I think are going to finish sixth, I'm going to go for Arsenal. I know it's probably slightly contentious, maybe, but I just think the kids are going to carry them a bit higher up, not to the level of finishing in the top four, because realistically there's so many teams up there who you could realistically put in there. I think Wolves have struggled a bit this season, and they're normally those top six challengers, and Southampton as well. But injuries and form for both of those teams have led them to struggle. And although you've got your West Hams, Evertons and Aston Villas who are doing well, I think consistency is a real issue with those kind of teams, especially as, not that they're out of their depth. You do see some results where I think Aston Villa have lost to Brighton at one point. Everton just lost to Newcastle. And I think West Ham will finish in the top half. I just don't think they'll go that far. And I think you get the likes of Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe, Tierney when he comes back into the team are really going to help Arsenal sort of mount a top six challenge. But I think that's about as far as it goes. So I'll start there by saying Mikel Arteta's Arsenal will finish sixth. Ollie, sixth for you.
I have the exact same in Arsenal. I just feel like that they're going to just start to pick up form. I feel like they've got a good point against Manchester United, and I know their last game against Wolves didn't go to plan. But I just think they will get into the top six. I think I've left out a few teams, which I think could, especially you, Kieran, are going to be like, how are they not in the top six? But, I think that gives away who isn't in it. But I just feel like Arsenal are picking up form, and I think I agree with you. The younger players are going to come through, and I think they will push them into that sort of European football.
I think for me, sixth was the hardest one to choose, to be honest. There's so many teams. When you look at the table, there's so many teams that are about 5 points off it, 2 points off it, with games in hand. You look at Everton, Aston Villa. I was very close to putting Aston Villa in mine and Everton, but then, like Kieran said, they've picked up some poor results. I think both sides are quite vulnerable if they get some injuries to big players, Grealish or, James Rodriguez. I think they could struggle. So I've had two, but I'm going to go with the team that currently occupies that spot, and that's Tottenham Hotspur. I just think they've got enough about them defensively. I know they've struggled a bit there recently, but they've got enough about them defensively to get it done. I think Arsenal are just too inconsistent. I think similar thing with injuries. If Smith-Rowe gets injured, and he does have a bad injury record, I think they could be in a bit of trouble. Lacazette drifts back out into the form he was in last season. I just can't really see them. I can see it definitely because I could see this going down to the last day with Tottenham and Arsenal, but I'm going to back Tottenham there. I think Jose Mourinho experienced. He's been there before. He's been higher than this. He should be able to get them over the line into that Europa League spot.
There's one reason why I didn't put Spurs in my top six at all, and I think it's just the loss of Kane. As soon as Tottenham lose Kane, and he's out for a fair time, it's been reported, they seem to drop off. And Brighton, they just lost against Brighton. They haven't won in 2 Premier League games. And I just think the loss of Kane and the loss of form, I just don't think they're going to make it. And I think with the revival of Arsenal, and then Chelsea, I think are going to push on under the new boss. So they just dropped out for me, which it was a hard one. And I am still looking at it after last night for our performance of Arsenal. But, I think that'll be the one spot which I may have got wrong. But I think else, I just don't think they're going to get into the top six, despite their really good start to the season.
Well, that leads nicely into who I've got in fifth, because I've put Spurs in fifth. There's some bias there, absolutely. But I don't know where you get your reports from, because all I've seen is that Kane's going to be back next week. So it's not as long term as it was initially feared, which is a massive, massive, massive relief. I just hope that if he can stay fit for the remainder of the season, then I think we'll be okay. The problem with the Brighton performance is because Kane is now basically our number 9, number 10, even sometimes a 6, 8. He basically does everything. So when he's not there, it feels like you're missing out on about 3 players. So to have him back ASAP is really important. And yeah, we have picked up some bad results, but I do still think we'll challenge for the top 4. I don't think we'll get it though. I don't think Spurs will finish in the top 4. I just can't see it in terms of longevity. You know, there are some bad performances in there every now and again. I don't think we quite have the consistency to really mount a challenge for the title, and also that I think we'll fall short of the top 4 as well.
I've got for my 5th, like I said, Tottenham aren't in my. If Kane does come back, last time I heard he was out for a fairly long period of time, which is why I put them outside the top 6. But as soon as they lose Kane, they seem to lose all form. So if he is back fairly soon, then yeah, I do think maybe they will get into this. I don't think they'll get 5th. I think 6th maybe, especially since they've got games in hand on the team sort of around them. But I mean, my 5th place is Chelsea. I know they're a fair bit off that now. But under, and I'm probably going to get his name wrong because I always get names wrong, under Tuchel, is it Tuchel?
Yeah, basically. Yeah,
there we go. That wasn't too bad. I reckon that they're going to really push on. I mean, you know, they got a draw and a win under him so far. And I don't know, I just feel like when the new manager comes in, it can either take time to adjust or you can just all of a sudden have that sort of form just straight away. And it doesn't last very long, but I think it's going to give them enough of a burst to really see through for the rest of the season, and their next season will be the real test for him. But I just think that they've got so much quality in that team as Lampard brought in that I just think they have to get the top 6, and I think under the new manager that's definitely going to get them into that European football.
Yeah, I'm with Ollie on this. I think with or without Lampard, Chelsea would have got into the top 6 with Thomas Tuchel now in charge. I think he's a qualified manager. I don't think he's anything excellent, but he's definitely a good manager for the Premier League, for the top tier of the Premier League. And they've just simply just got good players. They've got good players there at their best. I mean, Mason Mount has become one of the most important players in the Premier League. He's been absolutely excellent. The sort of re-emergence of Callum Hudson-Odoi, along with the experience of the back line, Azpilicueta. I mean, Marcos Alonso was excellent on when they last played against Burnley. So I think Chelsea are going to get 5th. I think it would require West Ham to fall off a bit, but I do think they're going to do that, and Chelsea will slide into that 5th place.
That was the most interesting thing I saw of the lineup the other day, with Alonso back in after not making a start for such a long time. And obviously dropping Chilwell was a big pull, but it obviously worked fantastically for him. And I've always been a long-time admirer. I know, Nathan, you haven't always been a massive admirer of Alonso. I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure last time we discussed him, you didn't think he was worth the hype when he first was in form. But I've always been a long-time admirer of him, so I was really happy to see him back in. But I think it's going to be an interesting one to see who gets that starting spot, because obviously they spent a lot of money on Chilwell.
Yeah, I don't think Alonso is the best player ever, but one thing he is, and you can't deny, is he's a great attacker. He's got a good eye for goal for a left back, and especially in that sort of wing back role where you do see the best out of Alonso. Defensively, there's still so many questions on him, and I think there will be until he retires. But if he's looking to get the attacking intent from his left wing back, I can't see that much better than Alonso in that regard. And that, I mean, what a finish he had against Burnley. He's just very good at shooting. Maybe he's a striker. You know, maybe that's his next position. But for now, he's a very good attacking left wing back.
Let's hope you never become manager of Chelsea.
I don't think I've ever seen a player be so good as a left wing back and so bad as a left back. I know they're two very different roles, you could argue, but he's a different player when he's in that further forward, more advanced role. And it looks like that's how Thomas Tuchel wants to set up his team. And after watching that Burnley game, although it was only 2-0, it could have been 5 or 6. And Burnley have got a very, very, very good defence. I think, as we've all found out, it's either been 1-goal deficits or 1-goal wins for all of our teams against Burnley. But the way Chelsea ripped them open, especially with Hudson-Odoi, I thought was miraculous. He looked like a different player as well. And that's why I've actually put Chelsea in 4th. I just think Tuchel's got the right philosophies to get wins and get results. And I think, although you could argue this season some of the more younger players for Chelsea have really stepped up, I think it is the right decision, really, when you first come in to try and get results, to lean on some experienced heads. That back three now includes Azpilicueta and Thiago Silva. And I think Alonso coming back into the team, Kovacic, Jorginho, Kante, all those kind of players, I expect, your Mounts, your Havertzes, they will obviously still start games and get look-ins, but I think what Tuchel wants to do, which is get results, that's the smartest thing to do, and I think it will be enough to push them into Champions League football.
Should Chilwell then, do you reckon, be a bit worried? Because obviously if he is going to play that sort of back five with wing-backs, and you're saying Alonso is the ideal candidate for that role, do we think Chilwell should be nervous about his starting position? Because, I mean, he's been the starting left-back all season under Lampard. So what now?
Chilwell's also very good going forward. But he's been doing it as a left-back. I can't say I've played as a left-back or left wing-back, so I don't know the exact roles and responsibilities that entails, but you can work it out roughly from seeing it, in that you have a lot more license to move forward. I'm not sure, but it almost provides a backup option, because you've taken someone from complete obscurity and brought him back into the fold and back into the team, and it looks like he's been playing for the last 6 months, when really, I think it was the West Brom game, which Chelsea drew 3-3, was the last time he played, when he was dragged off at half-time. So you could almost argue that you've got two players there who are going to be fighting for that position and are probably going to bring the best out of each other. I think a prime example of that was the arrival of Alex Telles. Luke Shaw, obviously understanding that his position's under threat by one of the fastest rising left-backs in Europe, and this is the best I've ever seen Luke Shaw play. So it shows what competition does, competition for places. Both players will raise their game, and I think that's a manager's dream, really.
In terms of a manager's dream, one player that my fourth place isn't going to have for the next couple of weeks is Vardy. I've got Leicester in fourth place. They are currently in fourth place, and I think they will secure that. I think that they've been excellent once again. I think since their title-winning season, they've been, fairly consistent. They're definitely, when we're talking about the big six now, do you think we should start talking about the big seven? Because, I mean, Leicester have been, just as consistent or more consistent than a lot of those big six teams. So what do you guys think? I personally think that it is turning into a big seven, because Leicester, without a doubt, I know they haven't got the money or they haven't got the big names, but I think they've got the consistency, or even more so than a lot of the other teams around them.
Yeah, I think so. I think we do have to maybe start considering that big seven. I think Leicester have just been excellent. I think aside from kind of the Shakespeare appointment, when they hired Rodgers, that was the perfect man for that job. And since then, they've just built on that. And I mean, Brendan Rodgers is a very capable manager, and we've all known that forever since he was at Liverpool. But he was coming off a poor spell at Liverpool that last season, just didn't go. His recruitment was something that got challenged a lot, and I don't know whether that was him or people above him. But his recruitment for Leicester has been, or Leicester's recruitment as a whole has been almost perfect since he's been there. And yeah, I think Leicester have to be considered as year-on-year European contenders.
That's exactly why I've got them in fourth place. I don't think there's much more to say about them. I mean, obviously Vardy having surgery, which Roger says he needed for a while, and they couldn't hold it back any longer, is going to be a massive blow to them, because he is such a crucial, cog in their system. But I mean, as long as they can find a goal-scoring replacement, I think that they've got all the capabilities to stay in fourth place, maybe even push for third. But I think that's a long way off compared to the top three currently in their sort of form. But you never know with the Premier League.
Yeah, I think Leicester are going to be fourth. I can't see them losing that spot. I know they've had a one or two poor results recently, but before that they was on a nice run of wins. As long as they don't lose players like Ndidi and Maddison, I think that'd be all right. Fofana's obviously coming in, is one of the best centre-backs in the league at a young age, which is absolutely superb, and Castagne's been very good as well. So yeah, I can't see him losing that fourth spot.
I've you may notice that I haven't mentioned Leicester yet. That's because they actually miss out from mine. Just because
on your whole top,
I thought about this.
They miss out on your whole top six.
Yes,
that's more bad than dropping Tottenham from it.
Because the end of last season, I think United were about 10, 12 points behind Leicester when they returned from after the pandemic, and United finished above them. The absence of Vardy is absolutely pivotal. Regardless of his goals, the amount of running that man gives you is insane. And although you've got Barnes and Maddison, who are really, really fine in goal-scoring form, you're going to struggle to have an out-and-out striker. It's been Perez at the moment, and he's not really hit the ground running for Leicester massively. Kelechi Iheanacho is someone who's kind of just been in sort of Vardy's shadow as well. And I think at the back, I think they've just lost Castagna again to injury. I know Ricardo's on the way back, but it's been a long absence for him and Soyuncu, and I think that's where they might fall short in their consistency. And I think it just showed that when with their defeat to Leeds, they kind of scored, they were on the front foot, and then they just sort of capitulated. And it happened earlier in the season against Fulham, and it seems like when Leicester concede or one or two without Vardy there, they struggle to get back in games. I think they like to play on the front foot, and they like to score first. And just over the next sort of 3-4 months, I'm kind of lent into what happened last season as to maybe say, or maybe if it's happened once, it can happen again.
I'm having a look at their fixture list now. And to be fair, apart from the next game, it does look quite challenging. I wouldn't want to be going into the fixtures without your main man up front. They got Fulham next, which, I mean, it's not an easy game, especially since they seem to be picking up a bit of form. They seem to be chucking fair odd results around. But then you've got Wolves, who obviously just beat Arsenal. Then they've got Liverpool, Aston Villa, and then Arsenal. So it's not an impossible run of form, but it's definitely not an easy one, especially without your main man up front. So, I mean, yeah, they could have some struggles and troubles, but I don't know. I just reckon they will get 4th place. I reckon they'll stay exactly where they are.
And for part 2 of our top 6, we're going to be taking a look at who we'll think will finish 3rd, 2nd, getting those Champions League places, and then who will win the Premier League title. So for 3rd, I have gone for Manchester United. I'm pretty sure they're ahead of Liverpool at the moment. But after watching Liverpool against obviously Spurs and West Ham, they may not look back to their best, but at least they're scoring. And I just don't think you can distribute the fact that you've got Mo Salah, Mane all firing, and Alexander-Arnold was superb against Spurs. Shaqiri was brilliant against West Ham. Jota's on the mend. It seems like everything's coming up trump for Liverpool, and they've signed some more centre-halves, and hopefully that all, in my eyes, push them further ahead of United. I worry for United if they lost Fernandes, because I think he is such an important cog in their machine. Obviously, we're going to mention what happened against Southampton, and I think a lot of that was largely down to the sending off inside 90 seconds. It was still a fantastic attacking performance, and you've still got to put 9 past teams, but that definitely contributed to it. And I just think that in recent weeks, in the bigger games, it seems like United are almost scared to go for the win. I think we saw it slightly against Liverpool, and we saw it slightly against Arsenal. And that worries me for if you're going to push into that upper echelon top 2 that Liverpool and Manchester City have occupied for so many years. And just based on that, I do think that Liverpool will pip them, and United will finish 3rd.
I have Manchester United in 3rd as well. It's hard because for a long time, there was sort of, could we win the title? But I think it's similar to Spurs. It's a very long hope there. It's not going to happen. Or, I mean, it could, but I just don't see it happening. Manchester United, yeah, it's weird. I mean, obviously, fantastic result 9-0. I have to mention that as a Man United fan. What a crazy result. Absolutely gassed and delighted about that. But I just think Liverpool, Salah's refound the form. They're starting to score goals again. Like you said, they've brought in 2 new centre-backs to, sort of fill that void. I read earlier that Van Dijk and Matip have now been both ruled out for this season. Or Klopp says it would be unlikely for Van Dijk to play any more games this season. So that will be obviously a blow to them. But, I mean, yeah, the 2 new centre-backs they brought in. I don't know much about them, but obviously they're going to be good players if Klopp wants them. So I just think Liverpool's newfound form, their new recruitment in defence, and Man United's, yeah, like you say, iffy form. They spring results left, right and centre, shock ones, not shock ones. I mean, the loss to Sheffield United was a massive blow to our title hopes. But I think I never considered writing this Manchester United as title contenders. Man City have just blown it away recently, and I think they're just going to run away with it. I'm more considering the battle for Man United now is Man United versus Liverpool for 2nd versus 3rd. And like you said, against Arsenal, it was just strange. There was no... 1 minute we seemed to be attacking free-flowing attacks against Southampton, but that obviously we did have 2-man advantage at one point. But then against Liverpool in the FA Cup, we showed good attack and threat. That was probably one of the best games of football I've seen in a long time. Both teams seemed to be going for it. And Manchester United seemed to be, actually trying to attack instead of sitting back. So, it's an odd one. But yeah, I've put Manchester United in third. Maybe next year we can battle for, first place, but I think it's too long of a shot for this season.
Yeah, I've gone with Man United in third as well. I think the one thing for me that kind of stuck out was the big games that Man United, the semi-finals that Man United have had recently, where they don't seem to turn up for them, and also the big game against Leipzig where they didn't turn up again. In those games where it really matters, and that seems to be the problem for Solskjaer at the minute. It's all well and good, turning up in the FA Cup fourth round against Liverpool, but is that same team going to turn up in that must-win Premier League game in April? That when they need to put that performance in, that's the only problem. As Kieran said, if Bruno Fernandes gets injured, I think they're in a bit of trouble there, because that puts a lot more pressure on Pogba, who's been absolutely fantastic this season. But it's a lot more of that kind of last season when Pogba was under all that scrutiny, and that's when maybe sometimes the performances kind of dip. I just think Liverpool will slightly overtake them into second. I don't think they're going to win the league, but I think Liverpool will end up in second. I'm pretty sure that will probably be all three of our second place choice.
I think it's a bit of an odd form though with United players. I mean, obviously Luke Shaw's come into his own this season after, like Kieran said, after the signing of Tellez. But I mean, Rashford, I feel like everyone thinks he's doing better than he is in terms of his goal-scoring capabilities so far this season. He seems to score and then also doesn't score for several games. I mean, hopefully last night's 9-0 thrashing, last night for us anyway, 9-0 thrashing of Southampton will give all of our strikers a bit more, of that sort of form that they need. Cavani got in on it. Martial scored 2 much-needed goals. I think it was 2 goals. Much-needed goals that I think should really help him because he's not hit the form he needs this season. So it's a bit of a weird one to say that we're currently in second, because I wouldn't say the form of our strikers, necessarily like Rashford and Martial, have necessarily been that threatening.
Like Nathan said, I imagine we've all agreed in terms of top 2 in that we've gone for Liverpool in second and Manchester City in first. Mostly, ironically, the actual reasons for that in my mind are defenders. That's kind of the reason, really. Liverpool losing Matip, Gomez, Van Dijk, playing 2 holding midfielders as centre-halves or people that are probably younger than us. That's sort of what it's been for Liverpool this season. Whereas you look at Manchester City and you've got 3 centre-halves who would easily make it into the best Premier League team in terms of centre-backs, I'd say, this season, with Ruben Diaz and John Stones forming that partnership, which was incredible. And you have to remember that Aymeric Laporte, who arguably had been City's best defender, was injured out of the team. So I think for Pep to have that option to come off the bench, alongside also having Kyle Walker and Cancelo, it's almost not fair, the level of depth that he has at his disposal if everyone stays fit. And this is really without a recognised striker oftentimes, but they still look like scoring goals. Maybe not as many as they used to score, but what they don't look like doing is conceding, which is a very rare thing to say for Manchester City. And I just think that they will, and I think quite comfortably, win the league this year. I think there will be times when Liverpool drop points. It's going to happen again, I think. They will win the majority of their games, of course, I expect that. But in some games, I do expect either defeats or draws, or where points are dropped. Whereas I look at Man City play, and even when they win by a singular goal, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. They really don't look in trouble as such. I think the closest time was against Aston Villa when it was 0-0 with about 15 minutes to go. And even then, you still thought they were going to score because they just posed such a threat throughout. And eventually they did. And I think that's going to be a case going forward for the rest of the season. You've got so many different kind of attacking players who can offer you so many different things that you can bring on. Mahrez, Torres, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan's playing like a striker at the moment. I just think it's going to be a comfortable margin for City to win the league. And I hope as well they push on further in the Champions League as well, because I think that's really the ultimate goal for Pep.
I think you summed it all up there. There's not much more to really say. I mean, Liverpool, as I said, I think they'll finish second. I think they'll beat Manchester United to that, but I can't see anyone beating Manchester City to the title. And I think it is an odd one to say. especially looking back on previous seasons, that right now I think Man City's most needed position is a forward. I think Aguero's just getting on, and Gabriel Jesus just hasn't got enough to be a starting forward for Manchester City. So, but I mean, if you look at it like that, the Manchester City's biggest issue is needing a striker. I think you're going to automatically think they're going to win the title because it's Manchester City and they have unreal squad depth and a great manager to lead that squad.
Yeah, I can't really say much more. I think Liverpool's lack of defence is gonna be the cost in the end. You know, with the likes of, I mean, Henderson and Fabinho have filled in brilliantly. Reece Williams has and Nat Phillips, I think, has shocked a lot of people by how good he's been. I don't think many people would have. Reece Williams was kind of on a few radars, even though he'd been at Kidderminster in the National League North last season. But yeah, I just think it's going to cost. It's cost us in a weird way with the sort of our midfield has been worse off for it. You know, Thiago is an absolutely fantastic, world-class player, but he's not Fabinho. He doesn't do what Fabinho does. Thiago is probably a bit more suited to playing on the right or left, whereas he's been operating as a holding midfielder, and that's kind of cost Liverpool in an attacking sense this season. Obviously, that long goal drought hasn't helped either. I think Sunday is huge. It's such a huge game. If Liverpool do want to win the title, that we have to beat Man City. I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm saying we, but we have to beat Man City. It's such an important game. But if Man City go on and win that, you know, with their 5 clean sheets in a row, if they make that 6 or 7 after the Burnley game, which is played, I know it'll be played after this comes out, but yeah, huge game Sunday, but I think Man City again.
Okay, now looking towards the bottom end of the table real quickly, I think everyone knows what the bottom 3 are going to be. I think it's been, you know, cemented down there for the majority of the season with Fulham, West Bromwich Albion and Sheffield United. And once again, it does pain me to say about Sheffield United, but I do have one thing to say. Their form has picked up. I don't think a 1-0 defeat against Manchester City is, I think at the beginning of the season, they'd take that. Obviously not in the position they are now, but 1-0 against Manchester City is not a bad game. So I think it is going to remain that way. I'm not sure about you two, but I think if anything, the one surprise I can see happening is maybe Sheffield United getting close to surviving, but just missing out and return to the Championship next season. I'm not sure what you guys think about that, but I think out of everyone, Sheffield United will be the one to maybe push to try and stay up.
Yeah, well, I like Fulham. I think Fulham, Scott Parker's done a great job there for as much as they could. But I think I can't see the bottom 3 changing that much. I think Sheffield United will finish 19th. I think West Brom will finish dead last. I think Soundline's proven to be a not very good appointment. You know, as much, as bad as West Brom's squad is, he's not made it a lot better. And I think Fulham, I can't see Brighton, I can't see Newcastle, I can't see Burnley going down, I really can't see Wolves going down. So I think it will be them 3 right there. I don't think there's too much else to say. I think that's quite a commonly held opinion that those 3 teams that are there, they're gonna find themselves in the Championship next season.
It is as simple as that, and I think that's an odd one for the Premier League. I feel like in the last couple seasons, it's been quite to the wire of who's going to go down. I mean, for a large part of last season, Aston Villa nearly looked like they were going to go down, and now look how they're doing now. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's a rarity, but I think the bottom 3 are already sorted in February, even in January or even December. So, you know, it's sad to see, especially for me and Sheffield United. But, you know, I think they are the 3 to go down.
100%. Yeah, it's sad. I'd love a great escape from Sheffield United, but I can't see it happen. And that wraps up the 1-2 Football podcast. Thanks for listening. Before you go, make sure to check out our Facebook at 1-2 Football and our Twitter, Instagram, all at 1-2 Football UK. And take a look at 12football.com for the latest written pieces from our growing list of contributors from around the world. We'll be back next week.